maiden name is Perez. I was married to Alex Sanchez first, and now I'm married to Bill Campbell. I was born here in Alliance, Nebraska in the '49 blizzard. And so because I am the last of 10, I had to kind of pick the brain of my older brothers and sisters because there's like 20 years between all 10 of us. And so I kind of was asking them here and there about stories, you know. And so here's our journey. Okay, my father's journey to the United States from Mexico began around the 1920s when he traveled to California. He found employment in the shipping yards in Richmond, California. He later traveled to Williams, Arizona with an uncle. He remembers riding a buckboard and probably worked as a laborer for a while. Around 1926 or 27, my father journeyed to Nebraska where he met my mother, Ruth Campbell. They were married in Scottsbluff County by a county judge in Gearing on December 6, 1928, and then married by the church on December 12, 1928. So our patron saint, Virgen of Guadalupe, we celebrate her on December 12th, which is so special because that's also my parents' anniversary when they were married by the church. In Nebraska, my father worked for the Union Pacific Railroad for a short period of time as a laborer. He then began working for beet farmers in the Minnetonka and McGrew area. This is where my parents started their family. And therefore, all of my 9 siblings were born in either Minnetonka or McGrew in Nebraska. I was the only sibling and last of 10 children to be born in a hospital at St. Joe's Hospital here in Alliance. It's no wonder that the one thing my sister Frances always recalls my dad saying was to my mother, "I want a bigger house." I always used to tease them because I said, "All you were born in a barn, I was the only city baby born in the hospital." My mother's journey to the United States from Mexico began also in the 1920s, when she came with her father to Pueblo, Colorado. In some paperwork, which there wasn't a whole lot, you know, we discovered a contract dated September 1924 through 1926 with, so cool, the Knight Campbell Music Company, which my last name is now Campbell, and this is the Knight Museum, spelled K-N-I-G-H-T. Anyway, my grandfather signed that paper, so they must have been in the Pueblo area for at least 2 years, according to that document. It appears that the contract was for the purchase of a Victrola. The cost of the Victrola was $51, and boy, do we wish we knew where that was today. My grandfather put down $10 and made payments of $5 a month over a period of 2 years, and a final payment of $1. The contract was not only notarized, but also recorded in the state of Colorado. And on the back of that contract was actually their home address. So you wasn't going to be able to go nowhere without completing that contract. My mother may have gone back to Mexico for a period of time before coming back to the United States. After meeting my father around Minnetonka, Nebraska, they were married, and she also worked for beet farmers there. So in the 1940s, my parents moved the family to Alliance. My family continued to work for beet farmers in the area. And as I was noticing on some of the items out in the museum, my father did work for the Kusher brothers in town. I don't know how many other farmers were in the area then, but I remember the Kusher brothers. My father was then hired by the city of Alliance on April 1st, 1957. He retired as the caretaker for the Alliance Cemetery on December 31st, 1970. He took pride in his job, and he knew that cemetery like the palm of his hand. He'd hear someone that passed away on the radio, and he'd say, "Mija," which is daughter, "write that name down for me." And that same afternoon, he would go out, he would find their plot, he would know where to dig that lot for that funeral, and had that place so green and so very well trimmed up. He loved it. My mother was retired by my older brothers and sisters, who said she needed to stay at home and no longer work in the bean fields. My father's name, Manuel Berdin Perez, was born in San Roque del Monte, Mexico on April 2nd, 1902. He became a citizen of the United States on March 15th, 1965. He passed away on February 2nd, 1982. Ruth Perez was born in Coloclan, Jalisco, Mexico on January 4th, 1904. She became a citizen of the United States on March 22nd, 1966. She passed away on December 10th, 1992, almost 10 years past my father, being a very strong woman. Because I was the last of 10 children to live at home, I have the most current memories of my parents in their later years. I was fortunate to have helped them study for their citizenship exam through the Adult Basic Education Program. Nadine Schlichtemeyer taught a class in upholstery at the same time. She taught them to upholster furniture as I went around the room with test questions in preparation for the exam. This was held
multitasking.
Yeah. This was held at the former high school building on Laramie. Yeah. So that's where we had those classes. You can see that my mother received her citizenship about a year after my father did. This was due to the fact that my mother did not have her original birth certificate. When she was younger, she was an eyewitness to the raids of Pancho Villa. Through the chaos and destruction upon the small villages in Mexico, her birth records were destroyed. Therefore, it took a while for the government to establish a birth date for her. My sister Frances was the firstborn child and was fortunate to have met our great-grandfather on our father's side, plus our grandparents and relatives on both sides of the family. She was able to travel to Mexico with my father and has fond memories of those years. She recalls taking our grandfather on our father's side to the train station when she was young. She remembers how he picked her up and gave her a kiss on the cheek. She mentioned that he was a very handsome and very well-dressed man. One of my brothers informed me that my grandfather was a cattle baron in Mexico, and that he was escorted to the train that day by his personal armed bodyguards on horseback. They had what they call the bandoleros with the bullets, and my sister had to ride side saddles. She'd never ridden side saddle before on a horse. My grandfather on my mother's side was said to have been a professional gambler. So you think along the way maybe we're going to inherit some big bucks from either a cattle baron or a professional gambler, huh? The rest of the family never got to meet any of our relatives from Mexico. Very sad. The only aunt we met, Josefina, came to visit us once here in the United States. She was my mother's sister, and she was actually born in the United States when my grandparents lived around the Minotaur area for a while. Later on, my aunt chose to become a citizen of Mexico, while my mother, who was born in Mexico, chose to become a citizen of the United States. In closing, this is going to be the tough part. In closing, I want to say that the reason my parents came to the United States is no different than why immigrants want to come here today. They come for prosperity and opportunity for themselves and their children. They are still coming from all over the world to live the American dream. My parents were honest, hardworking people looking for a better way of life. They raised 10 wonderful children with love, respect, and responsibility. We all attended grade school through high school in the Alliance area. There were 3 boys and 7 girls in our family. Girls always had to do all the work. The boys all attended Chadron State College and are military veterans. My sister attended business school in Rapid City, South Dakota. All of us have had good job opportunities and have led productive lives due to the guidance of both of our parents. They raised us in the Catholic faith, and they were longtime members of the Holy Rosary Catholic Church. They always found the time to come to our concerts, athletic events, and school functions. A fellow City of Alliance employee and good friend of my father once stated, "Your parents both deserve to go to heaven." We are blessed to have been raised by such prosperous, influential, and caring parents. We can proudly say that we are who we are today because of them. Thank you.